hanggang sa pintuan ng bus kailangan mag-posing talaga. O sige na, akyat na kayo please. Akyat na, akyat na. Go. Kasi late na tayo. We have only 1 minute left. Picture ba?
Sige Mari, send siya send.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you today?
Very good.
Excellent. I understand you had a nice day at Mont Tremblant yesterday?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. And now here we are in Ottawa. We've got about 90 minutes together. My name is Paola. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask. Just to say that a lot of the places that I'm going to be sharing with you today are very much places that feel like my own backyard. I grew up here. And so my goal today is going to be to make you, if not quite as at home as I am, certainly much more familiar and much more at home in your capital as well. So with that, why don't we get ourselves started, Sri? We'll head down the, ready to go, let's start. The opposite side of the street, on the driver's side, you're going to see that glass building there. That is the Bank of Canada, and this is Canada's national bank. They are in charge of watching over our country's, the health of our finances and our economy. But what's really cool is what's under our feet right now. There are giant vaults that remain here from many, many years ago, and those vaults were once filled with over $1 billion in gold. 90% of that gold belonged to foreign countries, and well, being a free, democratic, and pretty safe country, the decision was made for all these countries to leave their gold with us, and we're glad to watch it for them for as long as we need to. Of course, this being our national bank, you can't open an account there. It's not that kind of a bank. But they do have an impact on all of our lives because they set our prime interest rate. So if any of us have to pay a mortgage ever in our lives, we know about the prime rate and how the changes that are set up by the Bank of Canada will affect those rates that we pay for our mortgages. Today, part of what we're going to do is we're going to try to show you a larger, a different side of Ottawa, and give you a better side, a better idea of what Canada's capital is all about. What are you saying? Sorry. We're going to make our drive towards the iconic Parliament Hill, and no matter where people come from in the world that I've given tours to, they know about Parliament Hill. This is what they're here in Ottawa to see. So we're going to make that drive up towards Parliament Hill. It's the seat of our government. It's quite natural that it would be a very important place that people might want to visit. So as the seat of our government, it's the home of our two chambers, our two legislative chambers, the House of Commons and the Senate. That has actually changed because we're making big renovations to that building that we're heading up to right now, the center block. So the center block is currently closed, and it will remain closed for another 10 years as we make these renovations to the building. It just needs to be refreshed and also brought into the 21st century. I had a friend who used to work in the tech department in the early 90s, and computers were still a relatively new thing, and people were tacking those blue wires on beautiful wood paneling in members of Parliament's office. So, you know, time to put that all behind walls and bring everything up to speed for the 21st century. So lots of work happening there. Now that does not mean that the House of Commons and the Senate are closed. They've just moved to temporary new locations until we're able to reopen Center Block. So as we come up, you're going to see Center Block straight up ahead. And of course, the iconic Peace Tower that is recognized all over the world. Now, while people tend to associate Parliament Hill with politics, with government, there's a lot of other stuff that happens there too. We've already spoken about that remembrance ceremony for police officers from across Canada. But you might be surprised to learn that it's also a place of celebration. So, Canada Day every year, if you want to be part of the biggest party in the entire country on July 1st, this is where you want to come. You want to be on Parliament Hill. It's also a place of protest. We have freedom of expression in Canada, and people use that freedom every single day. It's rare not to see someone on Parliament Hill with a sign saying, I want something, or you need to get this done, or whatever it is. But what you might be surprised to learn is that it's also a place for a lot of fun. So here on Parliament Hill, every Wednesday at noon, we have yoga on the hill. And of course things have changed over the last year and a half, but until the start of the pandemic, we would see as many as 7,000 people on that west lawn doing yoga. All of it, of course, organized by none other than Canadian company Lululemon. So it's perfect, and it is so popular. It's absolutely amazing to see. The other thing, of course, that we see on the east lawn, or that we saw once on the east lawn, the Saskatchewan Rough Riders of the Canadian Football League decided to organize a full practice on Parliament Hill. Why? Well, because we can. And aren't we lucky to have that kind of access to our national institutions like that, that if we decide that we want to organize a frisbee, a picnic, or throw a frisbee around at the seat of our national government, we can just go on the hill and do exactly that. So there we go. Perfect. So I was saying that the House of Commons has moved, and indeed it has. It has moved to the West Block. So that's the building on the left-hand side. And they built, you might be able to spot some glass right below the tower there. And that is the new glass roof that they installed in what used to be a courtyard in the middle of the building. And they set up, it's absolutely stunning, the architecture, what they did there. And so they set up the House of Commons in this old courtyard so as not to destroy the heritage building all around. And once the House of Commons moves back to the center, oh boy, we've got a parade. We've got motorcycles. The House of Commons moves back to the center block. That House of Commons is going to be completely dismantled, and the courtyard is going to be rehabilitated and returned to what it has been for so many years. So it'll be absolutely perfect. Now, I know there's some kids on the bus. I wonder if those kids, or maybe some of you, took part in the Terry Fox run. You did? Excellent. So what's that statue of right over here on the plaza? Do you see it?
Terry Fox.
That's Terry Fox, yeah. So, Terry Fox is without a doubt Canada's greatest Canadian hero. And so it's quite natural that we would have a statue in his honor here on Parliament Hill. There we go. You are from the Toronto area. You have to contend with photo. You're going to see the most remarkable part right now that we see is that kind of section that's jutting out towards us. You'll see there's a series of little windows on that piece of building. Right now it reminds me of the tail fin of a plane. Ah, somebody said that. You're the best group ever. As we keep driving by, it'll transform, in my imagination anyway, into the rudder of a ship. And so, sorry. So yes, those windows, let's get back to that. So those little windows represent a series of dots and dashes. Anybody know what that is? Dots and dashes. What, sir?
Morse code.
Morse code. Excellent. Yes, it is Morse code. And there is a message that's written on that tail fin. It's lest we forget. N'oublions jamais. And this is the home of Canada's War Museum. So that's where we're going to drive past now. I'll just get us through this roadblock. And the reason why there's roadblocks this morning is because we have a long tradition, decades long, of what we call Sunday bike days. We close down these major roads to bicycles and inline skaters and joggers. There we go. To the ground, and then it rises to a height of about, I'd say about 4 stories. And that reminds us, of course, of those hills in northern France that Canadian troops were charged with capturing during the First and Second World Wars. The architect of this building was inspired by one of those hills in particular. It's called Beaumont-Hamel. In northern France. It was one of the battles that was fought during the Battle of the Somme. So you're going to turn right here. If you look back to that tail fin or that rudder, do you see the grass that's in front of it? There's a grass roof, and when the building was inaugurated, it was one of the largest in North America. Now grass roofs are a thing, but what that grass roof symbolizes is the theme of our building here, which is regeneration. War is a sad reality to this very day, but after war, after all the destruction, we rebuild, and society rebuilds as well. So regeneration is a theme that you'll see throughout this building. I want to tell you just a little bit more about how special this building is. It was designed by an architect named the architect's name is Raymond Moriyama. And he's designed some very important buildings, actually, in Canada, including our own City Hall here in Ottawa. And as I said, he's the one who came up with this idea of giving this building the theme of regeneration. And you can see that theme throughout the building, as I said. But one of the special things that he did was that he created a memorial hall. And in that hall, there's one artifact, one very important artifact. It's the tombstone of Canada's unknown soldier. That's all that's in there. So the unknown soldier is now buried at Canada's War Memorial on the other side of the downtown core. And here at the museum, we have his tombstone. And it's a beautiful spot. It's an empty room save for the tombstone, and at the back of it, a water feature that again reminds us of regeneration. Water cleaning up the battlefields, water getting those seeds that have been dormant for such a long time to start growing again, and then the grass, the poppies that start growing. So it's very lovely, but what's really key here is that he placed one window in that memorial hall in a strategic spot so that on a very important moment, the most important day of the year here, Remembrance Day, at the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, every year, there's a beam of light that forms a perfect frame of light around the tombstone of the unknown soldier. Across a river, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, because you know what, Ottawa is a meeting place. We've already seen several meeting places, political, historical, cultural, but Ottawa has always been a meeting place. It started with our Indigenous peoples, and it all centered around that river that we're going to cross. The original name for this river was Kichisipi. It means the Great River. I'm going to turn left. The river was named Kichisipi, which means the Great River, and it truly is one of Canada's great rivers. It starts in northern Ontario and throws itself into the St. Lawrence River at just before Montreal. And that is the river that we like to consider the first Trans-Canada Highway. It was the only way to get around back in those early days. There was one First Nation, though, that was really associated with the river. It was the Ottawa Nation. They're part of the Anishinaabe Nation, and so they were traders, and that's what they did. They just paddled up and down the river, and they became so associated with the river that slowly but surely people naturally dropped the name Kichisipi and started calling the river. Yes, they started calling it the Ottawa River. When it came time to rename this rough and tumble lumber town, as we thought we might become the capital one day, the city forefathers took inspiration from the river, which itself had been inspired by the people. So now it is known, of course, as the Ottawa River. And now that we've crossed the Ottawa River, I can say Bienvenue au Québec, because by crossing the river, we've crossed into another province. I know you came from here, but we're back in the province of Quebec. The Ottawa River serves as the boundary between our two provinces for much of its distance. And so by crossing this river, we are now in the province of Quebec. Now, an interesting fact about Ottawa is that we have, well, what we might call a two-for-one capital. Because even though we're in a different province and in a different city, and if I ask you what the capital of Canada is, you'll tell me it's Ottawa, and you're right, we have a national capital region. These buildings that we're passing on Shrie's side of the bus, These are buildings where federal bureaucrats work. Ministries of the Government of Canada are located here. And so a lot of the work of the Government of Canada takes place right here. So we're going to make, let me just see here. Let me double check this to make sure that. Yes. Okay.
Hindi daw okay lang.
The view I'm about to show you is a view that stops traffic. So make sure that your cameras are ready because when we get around the corner here, you're definitely going to be wanting to take a few pictures. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
I'm waiting to hear the who's and ahs. Join me now. I hope the view doesn't disappoint you. Oh, it's looking good.
Mag-vlog ka na siya. Nag-vlog na ako kanina pa. Wow!
Yeah, that's good. That's good reaction, everybody.
Wow! A big wow! Capital W-O-W! Wow!
Why are you saying ow? You said O-W.
No, W-O-W.
Oh, wag kang likod ng likod dyan.
Sinong tumatalikod?
Ready pa. Kahit na siya. Sige, tayo. Go, tayo. Oh, maganda.
Sige, picture pa more. Riverview Salon.
Lahat na lang. Sige, go. May iwanan mo upstairs. Uy, maganda yung marami kayo. Sige, marami tayo.
Juni, sama ka na dito.
Juni, go. Oh, sama ka na tayo. Sama ka. Ay, yung lake. Yung kuha yung ano.
Sana yan, sana. In the past. Come on, quick, quick, quick. Time's up, time's up, time's up. Hi.
You stayed on the coach to get a glimpse of this view as well. This is the Canadian Museum of History, and it has a very, very small project. It's trying to share with us 15,000 years of history on this land, and they do it incredibly well. So we're going to move forward just a little bit more.
No, Mom, see those
Just a
rentals.
little bit more. And a little bit more. I want to make sure that even the people in the back can see this view. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Now we stop. Thank you. Perfect. So this is our museum that we see right in front of you. On the right-hand side is the actual museum building. That is where you go in to take in those 15,000 years of history. One of the highlights inside that building is it's one of the largest collections, indoor collections of totem poles in the world. That's in the Grand Hall, and it's really well worth taking a look. And so on the left-hand side, let's start over here. You see this building? It's got several floors, but it also has those rounded shapes. That reminds me of the waves of the Atlantic Ocean that crash into our shores. The layers represent, or the floors represent, the layers of stone, of rock in the Canadian Shield, which covers so much of central Canada, Quebec, and right through Ontario and into Manitoba. This section outdoors here right in front of us with those grasses, kind of flat, reminds us of the prairies. And of course those are prairie grasses growing there. And finally, the highest section that we see on the right hand side represents our Rocky Mountains. So this represents Canada as it was formed during the last ice age, as the sheets of ice slowly made their way from east to west across Canada. And that green roof, we can see two there, but that second green roof is actually quite long. It stretches the entire length of the building, and that is our glacier that has receded all the way up into the Rocky Mountains. His name is Douglas Cardinal, and he is Métis, so of course he has Indigenous and European ancestry, and he is the one who came up with this incredible concept for these beautiful buildings. It was one of the first buildings that was designed by computer, so it opened in 1982. And so this was quite early still in those stages. Some people say there's not a single right angle inside this building. Everything is rounded. It's not quite true. There are a few rooms that will have 90-degree corners, but much of the building is rounded, and that goes back to Indigenous beliefs that evil spirits can lurk in corners. So if it's rounded, they can't stick. So now we're going to make our second crossing across the mighty Ottawa River. If you look to our driver's side, you're going to see it get suddenly very wide, and you're going to get a sense of just how big this river is as it flows all the way down to Montreal. And of course, if you turn back and look on this side, on my side of the bus, first you're going to see that glacier that's all along the building of the Museum of History, and of course you're going to get those incredible views of Parliament Hill. I should point out, as we look at Parliament Hill up here on my side of the bus, you see this rounded section of the building at the back. That's the Library of Parliament. And there's a big secret about that, because the center block is not the original building. It was burned down, completely destroyed in a tragic fire on February 4th, 1916. The only part that was saved was that round section at the back, the Library of Parliament. And when this building opens in 10 years, please try to make it a point to go and visit, because that library is absolutely stunning. The architecture in there is absolutely beautiful. On the driver's side of the bus, we're now going to drive by the National Gallery of Canada. This is the home of the largest collection of Canadian art in the world. We're going to be turning left after this set of lights. So as I said, that this is the largest collection of Canadian art in the world, and it's also got very important works from artists from all over the world as well. This building is designed by Moishe Safdie, who's a famous Canadian architect, again, from Montreal. And his concept for this building was that he wanted to build a modern building representing modern Canada, but a building that would still fit in well with the historical buildings that surround it. And I think he did a really fantastic job doing that. Across the street, you see Notre Cathedral Basilica. This is the oldest and largest Catholic church here in Ottawa, and it was built by the same people who built our famous Rideau Canal. There we go. We're going to drive right in front of it so you'll get a better view of it. Here on the driver's side of the bus, the Reconciliation Monument. This is in honor of Canada's peacekeepers. So peacekeeping, did you know that it was a Canadian idea? You're taking a left. So look at the two sides of the two walls. They represent the two sides of a conflict. Notice how they come closer together. And at the point where they meet, where that peace is finally achieved, that is where our Canadian peacekeepers stand, watching over that peace. So this is a monument that is in honor of all of those peacekeepers that we've had throughout the decades, and there are ceremonies that take place throughout here, throughout the year. No, let's keep on. We're going to go all the way down to the roundabout at the Governor General's. Pass by Notre Cathedral, Basilica again. This is a stunning place to visit. If you ever have a chance to pop in and have a look, it's well worth it, because when you're inside this building, you might swear to yourself that you're looking at marble columns and stone pieces of this building. But this is Ottawa. We grew up on the lumber industry. Everything is made out of wood, but painted in such a way to look like marble and look like stone. So we're now on a street that's affectionately known as Embassy Row. And we're going to pass a number of embassies while we're here. As a capital, we have a lot of embassies and high commissions representing countries from all over the world. Here on my side of the bus, we're now seeing the Embassy of Japan. There we go. Do you know Japan? Yeah. It's a great place. They've got great food too. And when we cross the street, we're going to pass another embassy. It's the Embassy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So there are, as I say, embassies throughout the capital, and each one is considered foreign soil. So when you are on embassy territory, you are actually in foreign territory. I have this crazy dream that someday I'm going to go on a trip around the world without ever leaving Ottawa, just by visiting a bunch of embassies. Problem is, you can't just waltz into an embassy. You have to be invited. But you know, you live to dream. So here is the Embassy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, in just a few moments, we're going to see an interesting building on the driver's side of the bus. There it is. And that is the NRC. The NRC, the National Research Council. I had to translate that. Sorry about that, everybody. This is the National Research Council. We Canadians, we are a very inventive people. I'm not sure you were aware of that. I've already mentioned one invention, peacekeeping. Do you know of any other Canadian inventions?
Basketball.
You have to say it really loud.
Basketball.
Basketball, yes.
Hockey.
Hockey, exactly. Lacrosse. Insulin. How about the zipper? That's a Canadian invention. Canola. Everybody's got canola oil in their kitchen. So these are all Canadian inventions. The National Research Council has contributed to many great inventions as well. The electric wheelchair, the Canadarm in space on the space shuttle. So lots of inventions that the NRC has contributed to. On our driver's side of the coach, we're going to see another embassy in just a moment, one of the two founding nations of Canada as we know it today. This is the Embassy of France. Notice how they have a very high profile and very important spot right overlooking the Ottawa River. That's because the first European who came here was none other than French explorer. Whoops. Can you hear me? Yes. The French explorer Samuel de Champlain. So natural that they would have him here. And now we're going to get our first view of the most famous address in Canada, again on Tree's side of the bus. This is 24 Sussex Drive, and this is the official residence of the Prime Minister of Canada, recently, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, recently re-elected. Sadly, he doesn't live here because the building is in desperate need of renovation. Great view. Yeah. The next roundabout. So now I'll draw your attention to my side of the coach because we see a gated a gated entrance right here on my side of the bus. This is the residence of our head of state of Canada. Does anybody know who our head of state is? It's a tough question.
No.
It's a really tough question. Any guesses? All right. The head of state. The representative of the head of state. So who's our head of state? She doesn't live in Canada. That's a big hint.
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth. Oh, Rock star, right there at the back, yes. So this is her home in Canada. This is Queen Elizabeth's home in Canada. It's just a small place, 80 acres. Not very big. 80 acres. So it's just a small place that she has here. And of course, as we know, she lives in London. And while she's away, she has someone who takes care of the duties for her. And then that would be the Governor General of Canada. So we just appointed a new Governor General over the summer. And let me try and give you her full title. It's been a while since I've done this. So, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable 30th Governor General of Canada since Confederation, and Commander-in-Chief of Canada's Armed Forces, Mary Simon. So that is her full title. I always try to imagine what that would look like on a business card. It's a very long title. But this is her home during her mandate. And basically her job is to ensure that we always have a functioning government. So when the election was launched during the month of August, Prime Minister Trudeau came here to visit Mary Simon to dissolve the House of Commons. And many of you have noticed we just drove by the statue of Queen Elizabeth. It's perfectly natural. It makes perfect sense to have her statue sitting right in front of Rideau Hall, her residence here in Canada as our head of state. So there we go. That is about our Governor General. Now there's a couple of famous Governor Generals that you would know because they left us gifts that we continue to use to this very day. In fact, they're awards of excellence. That we give them to the very best team at the end of the season. Oh, I'm telling you everything now. Any idea what that would be?
I have no idea.
No idea. I like the honesty. Who's the best team in hockey? What do they win?
Maple Leaf.
No, not the Maple Leafs. The Ottawa Senators. Let me thank you. Okay. I'll let you cheer for your Leafs, but I'm in Ottawa. I'm going to cheer for my Sens. But
We won last night.
no, you didn't.
Oh, we did?
1967, the year I was born, was the last time that the Leafs won the cup. Which cup? Which cup am I talking about? The Stanley Cup? Yes, exactly. And the Stanley Cup was a gift to Canada by former Governor General Lord Stanley of Preston. So that is one of the gifts that we have from Governors General. Another one is the cup that we give to the best Canadian football team, the Red Blacks of Ottawa, of course. No. Well, a few years ago. So the Grey Cup was given to Canada by Earl Grey. Just like the tea, same family. He didn't invent the blend. He didn't invent that tea, but Earl Grey gave the Grey Cup to Canada, and so that's what we give to our best football team at the end of the season as well. So those are two gifts that you know, and now there's two Governors General that you know quite well. So we're continuing on our way down Sussex Drive, as I said, Embassy Row, and we're going to see on my side of the bus in a few moments a castle again, another castle. Looks like a Scottish castle. This is the home of the Royal Canadian Mint. And the Mint is in charge of minting, of creating coins. It used to create all the coins that we have in our pockets, the quarters, the dimes, the nickels. But now it is in charge strictly of ceremonial metals and coins. So here we are in front of the Royal Canadian Mint. Oh, to get our hands on just a little bit of the gold and silver and platinum inside this building, you have no ideas. So this building, as I said, they create commemorative coins, commemorative metals. Do any of you remember anything that happened in Vancouver in 2010? The Olympics, exactly. So all of the medals that were awarded during the 2010 Olympics were minted right here. And what's even more remarkable is that those thousands of medals, every single one was unique. So it really was an incredible achievement that they actually did this. So in just a moment, you're going to see a giant spider. So giant spider, keep your eyes open. It's pretty big, it's hard to miss. Ah, there she is. And I'm saying she because I know she's a she, she's a mom. Her name is Maman, the French word for mom. And if you look under her belly, you'll see that she has an egg sac. So she's expecting babies anytime now. Nana was created by a French artist named Louise Bourgeois. And so she created this Nana statue. She created several Nana statues. I believe there's 7 or 8, and they're located all over the world. We're very lucky to have one. Each one is different. I was telling some of you that my daughter's a flight attendant with Air Canada. When she went to Tokyo, she sent me a picture of the Nana statue there. I was very proud. And it's completely different from this one. They are in honor, all of these Nana statues, of course, they're in honor of her mother. Now, what would be the link? Because I'll tell you very honestly, if my kids came to me and gave me a giant spider as a Mother's Day gift, hi Mom, we wanted to give you a giant spider because it reminds us of you. I'm not sure how I would take it, but there's actually a lovely link between the spider and Madame Bourgeois' mother, in that her mother was a weaver, just like a spider, and so there's a beautiful link between the two. If you look on the on my side of the bus, they're just taking down what the Festival Franco-Ontarien. So yesterday was Franco-Ontarian Day, where we people who have French as a second language here in Ontario, where we celebrate that culture, and so there were concerts and events here throughout the day. Perfect. Now, we're going to pass another beautiful chateau this time. We're not talking about a Scottish castle anymore, we're talking about a chateau. Here we are now. This is the famous Fairmont Chateau Laurier. It was the dream of one man named Charles Melville Hayes. And so, is that where you were staying? Oh, so lucky. At the fair, I love Fairmont too. I'm a Fairmont fan. So here is the beautiful Chateau Laurier, and across the street, here's our train station, or our old train station, which is where the Senate is now located. Both buildings were designed and created by Charles Melville Hayes, because of course he was president of the Grand Trunk Railway in Canada, and so it was his idea to get a train station right here in the heart of the city. Now, Mr. Hayes, he knew how to make $1 or $2. That's the reason he was president of the Grand Trunk Railway. So he decided that what would be better than to have a lovely hotel right across the street from the train station I just built. The driver's side of the bus. So this is a very important spot here in Ottawa. This is Canada's War Memorial. There we go. And the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So the War Memorial, of course, was built in honor of all of those who were doing left here. Give me a second. Okay. This is the home of performing arts here in Canada's capital. So we have everything here from opera to ballet to theater, modern theater. We have concerts from various popular music groups that will take place here as well. So if you're talking about performing arts, you're going to be able to see it here at the National Arts Centre. All of those who made the ultimate sacrifice during the First World War. So that's why the only dates that are engraved in the base of the monument are those dates of the First World War. You'll see we added the other dates later. And so the busiest day of the year here, of course, is Remembrance Day, when you're going to see about 40,000 people standing here, pausing to remember their sacrifice. And right at the base of the War Memorial, behind the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you've got 2 members of the Air Force who are part of the ceremonial guard, and they are symbolically standing guard over the tomb of the unknown soldier. So as we honor that unknown soldier, we honor them all. Remember that I mentioned the unknown soldier when we were at the War Museum, and his tombstone is kept at the War Museum in Memorial Hall, and he now lies here. He was originally buried in France, where he died for over 80 years, and in the year 2000 he was brought home in a state funeral, and he was laid to rest in perpetuity here at the base of the War Memorial. Because he's unknown, he represents them all, no matter who they are. So just a very important spot. A lot of people stop and pause to pay their respects here. And as I say, during Remembrance Day ceremonies, it is the focus of that entire ceremony. The Union Station that's on my side of the bus here was built by the same builder as the Chateau Laurier. It was left empty for decades. And the only thing that saved it was in 1967 at the occasion of Canada's 100th anniversary of Confederation. The reason it was saved, it was one of the rare buildings in the downtown core of Ottawa that had public washrooms. They were about to destroy it. They were going to demolish it. And thank goodness they didn't, because they had completely renovated the building and brought it back to its old glory, and of course now the home of the Senate of Canada for a period of 10 years. So we're now heading to our ending point of our tour this morning. We're going to Ottawa's famous Byward Market. Perhaps some of you might have already had a chance to go and explore there. The Byward Market is Ottawa's oldest and most colorful neighborhood. A lot of the buildings that you'll find there do date back to those earliest days of the city when it was still called Bytown. And it is the home of one of Canada's largest and oldest farmers markets. So as you explore the Byward Market in the next little while, you'll probably come across some local produce from the farmers in the region. What you might not know is that Ottawa is a very large city, but it's also a rural area. So within city limits, I'm going to ask you to guess, how many farms do you think there are within the city limits of the city of Ottawa? How many farms do you think? How many? 100. That's a very good guess. It's more than that.
100.
1,000. That's exactly it. There are over 1,000 farms located within city limits. The urban area of the city that we're in right now covers only about 15%. 1-5. You're going to turn left here at Dalhousie. And then you're going to take your first left on George Street. There we go. So I do understand that you're going to have a little bit of time to explore the Byward Market and grab a bite to eat, and I'll show you a couple of good spots where they're used to seeing groups of people arrive fairly frequently. And if you all go to those various spots that are available, you'll be able to be served quickly, and then be back aboard the coach to make the next leg of your trip. So the market is named the Byward Market. It is in honor of the founder of the city and the builder of our Rideau Canal, Lieutenant Colonel John By. So there you'll see that name come back. So this is Byward, and it's in his honor. In fact, he's the one, when he built the Rideau Canal, he decided, okay, my canal's going to go here, and you know what? There's going to be a lot of people that I'm going to need to build the canal. They're going to need things to eat. So my farmer's market is going to go right over here. And that's where it sits to this very day. So he was very much a planner, our Colonel By, and we're very glad that he did do that planning for us, because this is one of Ottawa's greatest attractions. Everyone who comes to Ottawa does come and visit the Byward Market. While you're here, you're going to have an Ottawa delicacy. And that is, of course, our famous beaver tails. If you haven't had one yet, now beaver tails you can get in a lot of places now. I know. They come from Ottawa. It all started over 40 years ago with a kiosk, a shack on the Rideau Canal Skateway, and they started serving up beaver tails, and it's gotten to the point now where people can't imagine coming to Ottawa and not having a beaver tail. So we're gonna drive past the beaver tail hut, and so I'll point that out to you as we go. And I mentioned the name of this street. I don't know if you noticed it, but I called it Dalhousie. And most people in Canada, and actually around the world, when they see that name, they'll say Dalhousie. And there's a famous university in Halifax named Dalhousie University. And it makes perfect sense, but here in Ottawa it is Dalhousie, and there's a very simple reason for that. We are a city with two languages. I mentioned the Franco-Ontarian Festival, and my first language is French. And we think that it's probably the influence of the Francophones who came and settled in this area, who worked in the lumber mills and who worked on the Rideau Canal as well. That, you know, in seeing this name, they just called it La Rue Dalhousie, and so it's just stuck. Everyone says Dalhousie Street rather than Dalhousie. This side of the bus, we are going to pass the world famous Beaver Tails hut in just a moment. And just beyond the Beaver Tails hut, there is the Byward Market building. That's the central building of the Byward Market, and here we're just spotting it here. on my side of the coach. Beaver Tails Pastry, that's where you get them. And just beyond that, you've got the Byward Market building. There are several stalls in there where you can purchase quick meals, everything from a curry in a hurry to tacos to bagels. So there's a lot to be found inside the Byward Market building. And across the way here on the driver's side of the bus, La Bottega di Castro. If you want a really generous Italian sandwich for lunch, as we say in French, so cheap and cheerful and delicious, go into La Bottega di Castro. It is an Italian fine grocer, but they also have the sandwich bar at the back, and they'll make some great sandwiches for you. So just a few choices, and we're going to park right behind. We want to stop here. Very much at home here and represented here as well. So I hope that we end our tour together with you feeling comfortable and at home, and that maybe, this is your second hometown. So with that, thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. And have a great trip. I do believe there's some time on the water for you this afternoon. Is that right? So enjoy your time on the water. That's the best way to have a vacation. And safe travels back home. And are you giving any instructions before?